Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I'm sorry for the little delay there, but better late than never, and we are ready here. Big Beat, I see you got the big red shirt on. What's that in honor of today?
I mean, come on, Howard. It is it's our opening day of baseball. The time-honored tradition of, in my case, watching Clydesdales run around and the legends of St. Louis ride around on Ford vehicles. It's interesting. Yesterday, all of the tariffs on automobiles that went into effect, 25%, in some cases even higher on some. Nervousness right there for the world right there. So I look, the markets are still pricing in all of these tariffs. They're trying to swallow them in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, I get it. I understand. But to be honest with you, look, the truth of the matter is we are starting to understand that not every tariff is going to go into place. And it is very, very, he said it clearly yesterday that, look, I am going to be more, shall we say, precluding some of the things political that are happening. Meaning, I'm not just going to do it to just do it. There might be an imbalance, and I want to make America great again. Okay, well, one of the things that he's saying is that we make cars, and he's going to hit them tariffs with European cars going to hit first. And then, of course, Japanese and of course Korean cars. So that's a big number of cars because, quite frankly, Toyota, those companies are right here, made in America. So, ouch.
Yeah, you hit a perfect one because it's so hard to digest everything. Because the workers' union came out, therefore, they think that this is going to actually increase production. Most other finance experts say, no, that doesn't happen because, it's too expensive to get the parts. It's too expensive to do it here. It just doesn't work, or they'd already do it here. Right. I think my takeaway or the key part here is it's just uncertainty until we get to April 2nd, right? I mean, the rhetoric's coming. We're seeing little drips and drabbles, but the bottom line is traders, it seems to me, are waiting till the 2nd.
Yeah, and I just learned a new word, drabbles. I don't look. I get it. I get it, Howard. I get it. I think I said this yesterday. My mom is asking me about Social Security, right?
Yeah.
The world right now is a little nervous. I get it. Okay, I understand. I feel you. I feel your pain. I understand that, but I think if we can get through these next few months, maybe this will slow down. I noticed that this morning that Kash Patel had a news to talk about, and of course Robert Kennedy talking about Secretary Kennedy now talking about laying off 10,000 healthcare workers and rebuilding the NIH. We need a little bit more of the slowdown. When you hire, every single secretary of every department is a social media expert. They're not going to stop being a social media expert when it comes to being on social media in their new job. So we should expect this on a daily basis for them to do this, right? To be able to tell us. And you know what? I kind of like the transparency here. You know what? I may not all these policies, but at least I know what they're doing. They're not hiding behind.
Yeah, it's not happening behind closed doors. That's for sure. And like you're saying, if for people that have spent a lot of time in DC, it's refreshing. Hey, Steve, I do want to point out, before we get much further into the politics side, one thing we talked about yesterday when it hit that $17 spot was VIX, right?
Right.
And to get your protection, that you wanted to have that protection before you need it. And that's exactly what happened. It already played out, went all the way up to 19. So if you got in that yesterday, that was a great move. And then, like we said, you rinse and repeat. You do that again. You wait for it to fall down. I'm not necessarily shorting it here in this area, but, I'm out of that trade and, now looking to see what comes next.
I see that Goldman Price once again raising their end of the 2025 gold price forecast here. I'm gonna put this here to 3,300 from 3,100.
Wow! So they're predicting more pain. That means in the world.
Yeah, and
that would be the way I'd read that, right?
Yeah, silver over $34. You know, there's a lot of, I mean, this is tough in a lot of ways, right? Because a lot of people are starting to say, hey, you know what, there's more pain to come. I don't think so. I think it's a little bit of both. You know, we've
Okay.
talked about the great wealth transfer, right? Where people that are older are passing away and giving that money to their kids, and you know, the money is being transferred out. But it's not just cash. It's not just stocks that are being transferred. It's also homes. It's also gold and silver, and mama's jewelry is going to be in there. Look, mama's jewelry may get all melted down into gold bars. I mean, you know, a lot of times that's what happened over time. That was part of the baby boomers, was to buy gold. I was just on a cruise and everybody asking me, hey, BigBeat, what do you think about gold to going higher? I'm like, yeah, unfortunately it is. What do you mean unfortunate? I have lots of gold. Because it's protection it's a hedge. It's a way of saying, okay, I'm going to not put this in cash. I am going to teach myself how to put things away because I'm going to buy it in gold and I'm not going to ever sell it. Right. Yep. So that's what's happening right now. And I think you're going to see a big dump on gold here in the next 5 years. But right now, there's no stopping the price of gold right now.
Right. And trying to break to all-time highs again, all-time highs here on the CFD, for US ounce, 30.57. It traded as high as 30.55, almost 30.56 earlier today. So again, I do think Middle East tensions picking up a little bit, nothing really going away in the Ukraine, so to speak. The latest thing I saw was that the U.S. is moving strategic bombers around the world, which is not a good thing. Talk of maybe, you know, that we all have some issues with Iran. Markets, though, with all that being said, markets are not taking this news, you know, a lot of this priced in, as we've talked about, down 22 basis points, the Qs. SPY's down 12 basis points. So, you know, the sky is not falling. You know, the world is, you know, maybe different than it was yesterday, but not significantly different. I get, you know, it changes every day, but not too much more anything yesterday versus today.
I mean, look, I learned a long time ago, you want to know how bad the world is, you want to know how good everything is. We call it the Fifth Fleet diplomacy. Where in the world is the Fifth Fleet of the United States Navy? And that will tell you exactly just how good or bad things are. I can tell you that right now they're still in the Middle East, and that's where it's at. So you want to know how good the world is right now, just look up Fifth Fleet and look up you know, where in the world it is, and that'll give you a much better idea of how things are actually going.
Yep, absolutely. Mag 7 here. So far, NVIDIA getting beat up again here. Again, it starts to look like a really nice value to me here at this 111.87. I'm targeting. It does look like it could drop back down to that 107 area here that it traded at on March 10th. So we'll see there. That's the big loser. Meta down 2 here, about 1.24% pre-market hours. Again, another one that's sort of approaching almost right at a support level. We got to see it hold right around that 603 area is where it's currently trading. 601 is support. So we got a few of those. Tesla's bounced back a little bit, up 61, 62 basis points here. The others are pretty flat. Bitcoin trading at 86,678, not too far removed from where it was. On the daily map, we're still sort of sitting in this, you know, ascending triangle. I did notice on the hourly we definitely have some consolidation here in a, you know, sort of wedge pattern that's been playing out. Usually when that happens with Bitcoin here, this is the hourly chart, we might see an explosive move one way or the other as these close out. I had done this earlier, so now I have to extend these lines. But we do seem to be in this zone of consolidation here. So you could see an explosive move here. I will say also you have a pretty good support line at this 86,500 area that could give you your launching point to the upside here. And anything sort of below 86,250, and you definitely start to see liquidations down towards that 84,957 level I have. So beware with Bitcoin. Could go either way here. You're going to want to watch what it does as it approaches, like I said, that area of the wedge. Anything else you've been looking at so far this morning, Steve?
Look, the advanced decline line right now is sitting at 259. It's about as
neutral,
no man's land as it gets, right? People are just waiting to see what's going to happen. Now, it is opening day of baseball season, so expect.
And the tournament still.
Yeah, and the tournament and everything else. I don't really expect heavy trading today. Expect a little bit of volume from.
And we have PCE tomorrow morning, 8:30 before open.
Yeah, there's just too much angst right now. People just, you know what I'm going to do this afternoon? I think I'm going to go watch some baseball, to be honest with you. I think
that's not a bad idea.
Nobody trades more. I trade quite a bit, right? And look, I don't see anything in the market that I really want to do. I don't really want to go after pops and things today. I just don't feel it because, quite frankly, I think that the world is just too quick right now to say, hey, I'm going to sell everything I buy right now. I can't wait. I'm a day trader. I'm a day trader. Well, you don't really need to be a day trader right now. Right now, I think it's a swing trading situation, right? Go find things that are beaten up, go buy them, and go be like gold, right? Hold them for a little bit. Have a thesis. I heard somebody the other day talk about Apple being a
Apple.
Good,
that was a great thesis, I thought.
Yeah.
Someone that's actually using their new technology in the music industry.
Was talking that idea.
Two of us talking about how easy, how fast the processing was, everything there. He decided based on that. For me, it's NVIDIA is the one that I keep focusing on because I want the Blackwell RTX chips, and I can't get them. I'm not a big GM guy. I'm more of a Ford guy personally, but some of these tariff beatdowns right now, maybe I'm not buying today, but maybe I start to nibble a little bit into a quarter position, something like that, because I want to have a little piece because, what if he does come back on April 2nd and say, guess what? I shook hands with, Clarny and with Mexico, and we're going to move forward. Those stocks, they're down because of tariff today, not because General Motors is a worse, car company today than it was yesterday. Is that accurate, you think?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Social media, you never know what's going to be said, right? And you have to play it that side. But I'm looking at the VIX at 1857. It's back to where, there's not a buy or a sell on, and I think what you're seeing now. You're seeing a sideways triangle here right now. So, I don't. Again, it's baseball and it's March Madness, and you don't know what's going to happen in the next tweet. And people are saying, "Fine, I'm just going to take my football or whatever, and my ball and basketball, and go home, right? And I'm not going to play with this game." And they've said that. So here we are. Now, look, I know that we're trading, and I know that we are, a show that's supposed to bring you all. I'm going to try to tell you the truth. I don't want to lie to you.
Right. No, absolutely. Sometimes no trade is the trade,
right?
And what we're both sort of saying here is I'd rather have my money on the sidelines for a day or two while I gauge what's the next move. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not doing my charting. I'm not looking at stuff because I'm looking at levels that we're going to approach, whether we move to the upside or downside. You know what I mean? Like I just said with Bitcoin, nobody knows, honestly. All we can use is predictors of what's happened. And what I see is we're in this consolidating wedge. When we break out of consolidating wedges, we usually do it in an explosive fashion. When that happens, it will either move to the upside, which means a bounce off of this 86,600 area where we have this nice support level that we visited, multiple times here over the last week. And that will give us our move to the upside. If we fall below that, look for an explosive move to the downside, because again, you invalidated the upside move and now you're bearish. You have to play what's in front of us. And for me, it's, sitting and watching a little bit more, being patient for my entries, or just like I said, if you're looking to get a long-term accumulation in something like a General Motors or one of these other tariff beatdowns, you could take a little bit of a nibble, but a nibble, not your full position. If you want to have, just to use easy numbers for the way of covered calls, you want to have 100 shares or something, today might be the day you buy your first 10. So that's the way I look at it. I do think we're starting to get to that tradable bottom across some things. Ron Williams joining us on Twitter today, Ron. Look at you moving into the future from YouTube. Wow, that's a little bit scary right there. I want to give a shout out to my man Arnold watching in Tip City. I know he's there with his dad, Jay, watching it. Jay, we'll try to take a look at that stock Ricey you talked about with me yesterday. I do think that's something that's interesting as a smaller stock play here. Steve, tick is slightly negatives, continuing decline, advanced decline, like you said, around 234. Qs have dropped to about 30 basis points to the downside. SPY's down 18. I didn't take a look yet at what yields are this morning. Give me 1 second here. So the 10-year, see, we keep pushing up on these rates still too. Also, have you noticed that, BigBeat?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Any concern? Is that ticking off your radar at all or anything?
No, not really. Okay. I'm seeing gold and silver dropping here though pretty quickly. Dixie is starting to push up just a wee bit. Yeah.
It does look like so far, looking at the Spider Select funds, the majority of them outside of real estate and consumer discretionary, which got beat up really badly yesterday, are slated to open to the downside. Also, we are 10 minutes from the open here. Looking so far, banks all looking to open to the downside in general, especially U.S. banks. Biggest laggards so far, Morgan Stanley down 79 basis points. Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan down 68 basis points. They had been moving up the last week or so, so these are not all that surprising. You can see the gap up here that JP Morgan took the other day. Take a look across the chip sector. Again, a lot of red across the board. NVIDIA down 1.8%. Broadband down about a full percentage point. TSM down 1.38. ASML. I haven't looked at TSM's chart in a while. This is one where you start to look at your tradable bottom.
Yeah, and I'm watching, believe it or not, I've been keeping my eye here. It ticked down to about 200, and the advanced decline still 158. There's really nothing here. I have been watching, interestingly enough, Nintendo. For those of you who don't know, it's NTDOY. It is interesting with this new Switch 2 that they're talking about. There has been a big move. But I think for me, it's going to be those, interestingly enough, the accessories around Nintendo Switch. They're really pushing on that. So it's NTD.
Oh, wait there.
NTDOY. There you go. And I think the accessories around Nintendo Switch 2, yeah, it's really an interesting play here. It doesn't get a lot of volume. I understand that. The volume, I think average volume is 2.25 million. So the volume already is 909,000 a day. But a market cap of 87 billion. I think Nintendo is going to really push this Switch today, but they're also going to push the accessories around it. And Mario Kart comes with it, I believe. So it's really interesting play there here. I think that there could be a push back up. I know that the 16 to 18 run over the last few days has been kind of nice, but right now I kind of like this play here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow Nintendo enough to know here. Decent from the chart aspect. Sort of filling the gap to that downside. Yeah. Nintendo is definitely an interesting company. Top is up 3.
Bitcoin is still slipping here, 86,500. Talk to me about Bitcoin. What seems to be going on there? It's got to be more than just institutional in and out and perps. There's something going on that I can't put my finger on it, Howard. Something's wrong. Something's broken about it right now, and something's happening. And I can tell you right now, there's something I can't put my finger on, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any insights as to anything going on that's nefarious or anything else. I mean, do I think that?
Well, the last time I said that, right, we found out that there was a North Korean hacker who was trying to 50x stuff to the short side, and you caught that, right? You found that info out there, and we caught it. It just seemed that there's something out there that's really kind of strange right now.
So I actually noticed that where I was looking for all the kind of stuff. So I was looking for any kind of bearish or bullish divergence. Everything looks nice. RSI versus the bottom support line, right in line. No, it's just, and again, the recovery over the last 10 days has been from a low of 77 to a high of 89. It's pretty positive. I mean, that's a pretty good chart over the last 15 days, Steve.
Right.
Yeah, we're having trouble breaking this 89, 89,000 level. We definitely are. That right now is where we see selling. And if I had to guess, it's because of how quickly we came down. We dropped with the elevator and now we're taking the stairs back up. It's what we do. The question again, like I said today, is if you can break that 89, do you actually get a divisive move back up to the mid 90 level? Or are we going to trade? It wouldn't be that bad to trade between 85 and 90 for a little while. We haven't spent any time in that area. There's no price discovery.
Maybe I should quit complaining because, I said back about 5 years ago, I just wish the crypto would slow down and get into a trading range, and that's where it's at.
Okay. I mean, keep in mind, it made the move from 80 to 89 in the one day in November 11th,
Right.
So
but the dumping here
it's now developing, it's getting its feet. I mean, to me, this is healthy market movement. What's been good is we haven't seen the bearish statements were all right. We're coming to the 68 level that we took off from. That doesn't seem to be the case, and a break over 90 would invalidate that statement because then you would have filled back up to the top. So, that's where we're at. There's definitely a battle. I do think that there is some irrational sellers. I do think that there's a lot of, the volume on IBIT and those things is crazy. So, those are all, that's where the good and the bad come together because they are, all of that's tied in. They have to actually buy shares. So as institutions that are doing crazy little quant trades based upon stuff buy, $1 million in IBIT today and sell it and tomorrow, that's what we're in for. That's where I'd say to you, this is the market that we asked for, right? Yeah, like you said, is not the Wild West. You have institutions that are keeping things within ranges and they're trading, and that IBIT is doing. The volume that you see in IBIT exceeds GLD every day, right? So those are the things that's what matters to me. The price of Bitcoin will eventually be more than everything else that matters. It's just a matter of how that market structure gets there and in what time frame it does.
Yeah, I got you. The complaint side of me wants to see back to 100,000, and I see it back because that tells you what's healthy, right? For me, Bitcoin exacerbates the psychology of trading right now. I know that we're about 3 minutes here to the open.
It leads. If Bitcoin hits 100 tomorrow, it leads us into the bull run on the markets and on the equities because it is a forerunner. It trades 24/7. It's what we talk about with equity with forex during the 24/5 week that they have. That's why money moves first. Crypto actually moves first. Don't tell Steve that again.
I will say that I saw this morning, I posted, if you guys go to Quasar Markets Twitter, and I'll post that. If you're not there now and you're coming somewhere else, I'm going to go ahead and add that banner so you can see how to get to us, is molybdenum. For those of you who don't know what molybdenum is, I know there it goes. That's the look I usually get when I talk about molybdenum.
Isn't that song that they used to sing? Molybdenum.
I'm gonna show my chart here.
Absolutely. Remove mine.
And I'm gonna show this. Let me share my screen here, and hopefully you guys can see this. Molybdenum's rising importance. For some of those, it's molybdenum. No, it's not. It's molybdenum. It is what they call a rare earth, and we've been talking about rare earths for a while. And I think a lot of people don't really know what rare earths are and what the needs for them are. No, rare earths aren't lithium. No, rare earths are things that you just can't get anywhere else. China and the United States as the biggest driver of rare earths, right? And China has the lion's share of it, say, for example. But you can see this is the usage of molybdenum, and of course it got really high over about 2023, about 2 years ago, and it's kind of fallen down a little bit. But we still need this rare earth, and if the Trump tariffs are starting to hit, and China says no, I'm keeping my rare earths, the price of molybdenum will continue to go up. Now, what do I mean by that? What do you need it for? This is a great piece here. I like this a lot. It explains that you need it in high strength steel. Guess who has high strength steel? Not China, the United States.
Right.
Steel is
they lead in low grade steel.
That's right. They have low grade steel, but if you want to build a skyscraper, you want to build somewhere, it's here. Now I know the markets are just now open. They also have it in oil and gas pipelines, President Trump. And they also put it in nuclear power plants, President Trump and Microsoft and these companies, as well as electronics and gadgets. So look at molybdenum. I'm going to drop my screen off here a little bit.
Oh, let me put mine on back on
and
here.
I can see now that nothing's happened. The VIX is still pretty low. I mean, nothing's moving. The tick down 500. Normal little takes a profit off, I guess. I don't really know what's going on today. I can tell you that I don't like a lot of what's going on. Good morning, gentlemen. Sure is. I love it. Hey, Ron. Yeah. So dollar pushing up 104.41. Spot gold still slipping a bit. I'll tell you what I do like is silver at 34.20 this morning. I know it's back to 33.87. There was some profit taking on that. I don't, we're going to $43. I don't know how else to say it. It just is what it is. We're going there.
Yeah. Bitcoin 86.3, 86.4 now. So trying to recover, but right at the bottom of that area we talked about. So it could break to the downside here. It will start to kick off some liquidations. Trying to see what's moving here. Most of the big names I follow are all to the downside. Berkshire down about 12 basis points. CEG and Constellation Energy down 1.5. Delta Airlines down 1.25.
We're hearing reports that Washington has now told the EU to brace for more tariffs.
Oh, fantastic. DLTR is up another 4.19% here, Steve. That sell-off of Family Dollar has people really happy.
Yeah, I mean, if the world's going to hell in a handbasket and everybody's working, it's going to be DLTR. I mean, it's not hard to understand this one, right? Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, all of those are going to push back up. Costco, Sam's Club, look at Walmart. I'm sure Walmart's
probably. I have to first. I have to get to the fact I got to put on my Mickey ears for you. The $100 price about to be broached, maybe here on Disney. Here, Steve has a rule. He likes it at $100 or less.
Yeah, anytime Disney's under 100 to buy, time it's over 105, 110. It's easy. It's an easy trade. It's an easy buy. Long dated calls. I don't tell them what to do, right? But
this 98.21 looks very enticing if it was to get to that level.
We're hearing reports that Dmitriev says that the United States is interested in Russian LNG. Now, we've talked about LNG quite a bit. For those of you who don't know, LNG is liquefied natural gas. Natural gas is how most of Europe is powered. And we do use natural gas here. A company called Cheniere Energy, LNG, is a good example of that. That stock has exploded to the upside over the last 5 years. Everyone knows LNG used to be the importer of. It's an interesting story if you ever want to get to it. They spent billions of dollars being an importer in Louisiana for LNG, and then they realized that we are an exporter in the United States, so they spent billions of dollars to reverse the lines to go back out.
Right.
Yeah, 86,000 on Bitcoin here. Just another drop there in Bitcoin as tick has dropped now.
In the EU, with all their unity there, France's President Macron, several countries made additional military and financial commitments for Ukraine on Thursday. Polish Prime Minister Tusk, Poland won't send troops to the Ukraine. Good thing they're all pointed in the same direction over there, huh?
You know, I hate to say it, but let's be honest. The White House deal about a month ago, when Trump and JD Vance jumped all over the president of Ukraine, he was right. Putin is not holding to what he's saying he wants to do, and that should tell you a lot. Putin is not telling the truth. So, look, he wants to own Ukraine. He does not playing around. He wants to own it, and he's going to continue to fight. But I
Yeah.
think we don't want bloodshed over this. There's no reason for it. We don't need death. It's just too much. Looking at Bitcoin, it's trying to hold over the 86,000 and the VIX. I mean, we called it yesterday, especially you, Howard. We got down to under 18. We know this, and now it's almost 19 this morning, right? It's going to get up there a little higher, and then it's probably going to fall back down. So, you could have bought insurance. We talked about that two episodes ago, right? And you could have really been a happy camper today. So, it's good pays to stay.
Absolutely. News is going quick and furious here. Coinbase holding up pretty well here so far. 192. I start to get interested here with them. Again, you're getting towards those tradable bottoms here, towards about 185 or so, 180, where you start to get some value out of something like Coinbase. A lot of these that are pulling back. Tick, though, still negative 500 so far. Advanced decline is minus 2320 so far. So still negativity. What did I just see? Sam Bankman-Fried moved to federal jail. Nice. In Oklahoma. About time they got him out of New York, where he had a little bit of luxury.
Yeah,
19 here.
I think that's part of the problem in crypto, right? Is that when the criminal aspect needs to come out, right? And we're still seeing that, and harsher penalties need to happen to make that happen. So,
yeah,
we're about to lose 86,000 here on Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's definitely some selling here, Steve. Lucky Charts, good morning to you too. Hope you're having a great start to your day and your trading day for sure. Tick still negative, advanced decline, continuing to move to the downside. Q's now down about 73 basis points here. We see SPY down about 50 basis points so far. Dow Jones down 43 basis points. So everything down about a half a point, with the Qs leading the way, though. Tech getting hit again. If we look at the Mag 7.
We're hearing about a deal with NVIDIA and CoreWeave right now.
CoreWeave is about to do their IPO, aren't they?
Yeah, it looks like NVIDIA is going to take a big chunk of that, looks like.
Oh, wow. That is big news.
And there's 86,000 busted through, so yeah.
Yep, move was to the downside there on Bitcoin. Like we said, there was a spot you could see. If it broke through it, we're going to see some liquidations here. These liquidations, though, will just be quick and they'll be done.
1911 now on the VIX here, so as it pushes higher. Silver dump was pretty strong here, 33.74. So at 34.20 an ounce at 33.74, that's a serious dump there. So the dumping is everywhere, right? Everybody's just going to cash, and I can't tell you how bad cash is. But that's also telling you the theory and the feeling of Zelensky says Russian conditions for Black Sea ceasefire are unrealistic. Zelensky says lifting sanctions on Russia now would be a disaster. We just talked about that. I mean, that's what we said, right, this morning, right? That nothing seems to be working here. And we're hearing now Macron says that a Franco-British military delegation will be sent to work with Ukraine military to plan for their future army. Look, this could be a full-scale war here soon. I mean, I think people need to understand this, right? This is not a joke anymore. This is not something, whether or not we know that Putin wants a fight and he wants to own Ukraine. And so if that's the case, then markets are not a place to be right now.
Right? No, I agree with that.
I mean, as a student of history, World War I and World War II was started with less.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay, ticks down 600. So, this news definitely has us moving to the downside still. Q is now down, 3/4 of a percentage point here, continuing to move to the downside. Bitcoin down 1.11. Like I said, it tends to lead the way. It's the first thing that gets sold off on this stuff for some reason. And the VIX is jumping up. So, everything is telling you what we've been saying. It's all following through here. I mentioned I wouldn't be shorting the VIX at that point. Again, usually it makes spikes up towards this 21, 22 area on these type of news. So that's what I'd be looking for, a move up into this area. Do see a little bit Chinese names getting a little bit of love so far today. Alibaba up 1.47%. Baidu up a 0.5 percentage point.
Yeah, more selling now everywhere, just on this news here. Back in this
JD up
news.
1.24, yeah.
And nobody wants to own anything. Everybody wants to own nothing. I mean, that's just it, right?
Nvidia at 110, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Nvidia. Nvidia's gonna go back up. This company is a cash maker, money maker, and selling here is
value. Again, what I'll point out is the same thing that I pointed out when it got down to these levels a couple of weeks ago, is that, when you start to see its price to earnings ratio get down to that low 40s, that's slow for a company like that. Microsoft down another 0.5 percentage point today, too, down to about 387.90.
Man, we're back above 111 here on Nvidia. Well, it's just, it's still too cheap right now.
VIX still negative. Tick still negative about 570. VIX 1923 now, continuing to spike to the upside here. Qs, everything continuing to slide. Haven't seen anything really bottom out yet. Gold has moved back up here to 30.34, though. We do see that. Bitcoin at 85.830. See if we pull up anything here. And JP Morgan now down 1.31%, 247.73.
We're hearing that the CoreWeave IPO will start around. I'm going to post this now. Leslie Picker now saying it, that the IPO will start at around $40 a share. We'll see how that works. For those of you who've never gone through an IPO, I go through them all the time. I can tell you that it is a back and forth, and we'll put that on there. There you go. $250 million order from NVIDIA coming into the system to buy CoreWeave. Yeah.
Wow.
Mexico's President Sheinbaum now says that Mexico's Minister Abard will inform via Zoom on DC meetings that Walmart, WMT, is going to announce an investment in Mexico.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a little company called Cifra. 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 Still seeing some selling here in Bitcoin. That's just crazy. Yeah.
As you said, NVIDIA regained 111 nicely here. Broadband down 2.63%. AMD really getting hit here, down 4%. ARM down 3.68%. So all the chip
Tick
companies
is trying to jump here a little bit. And VIX is dropping just a bit here. I think the shorts are covering a little bit here. Goldman Sachs down about 3.6 and Morgan Stanley down about 3.6% here.
Yeah, thanks. UBS down 4.31.
I think we get about 86,000 again. I think we could. This morning's flush may be over here.
Hotels getting hit pretty hard also. Marriott down 2.36, Hilton down 1.92, Hyatt down 2.2%.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see internationals coming over here anymore to stay at our hotels. So, yeah. And this morning, pending home sales and 10 o'clock. So let's see how the home market does. I'm not really sure what I'm thinking here this morning, but yeah, well, that didn't hold very well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting much out of home builders, but I don't think the expectations are very high.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that, you know, because we had reports, you know, KB Homes has been down one of the most, right? KB.
Yeah.
This week after their KBH, actually, KBH.
I kind of want to see the VIX drop a little bit here. I think that some of this news headlines is out. Tick just went positive for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, now we do see the Qs and SPY coming off the bottoms of the day and moving back up slightly here, picking up about 10 or 12 basis points each from where their lows of the day were. Bitcoin trying to regain 80. There it is, 86. So
no. Back below 86.
Holding up pretty well at 30.35. So we're just seeing a little bit of volatility. Volume pretty slow so far. Yeah, volume pretty low so far.
Ferrari, that's RACE, now says that they will update their commercial policy due to new U.S. tariffs. Wow.
That means they probably just won't sell them here.
Yep.
You'll have to buy them on the secondary market for all you Ferrari fans.
Yeah.
Because they sell them. Yeah. It's got their stock down about 1.4% here on that news. Bitcoin fighting at that 86.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that as these tariffs come on, this also affects inflation, right? It pushes inflation up. So this hurts the Fed, right? And the Fed's like, well, I can't lower rates, guys, if you keep putting tariffs on. So this is part of the problem. He's hurting his own self. I don't know, but I really don't understand the play here.
Right. And we've seen this already, right? In the aluminum companies, they did surveys to look at pricing, and U.S. companies just raised their prices to match what the import prices were.
And here we go. Mexico's President Sheinbaum says we are going to give an integral response to tariffs after April 2nd. So everything we're saying.
I'm sitting on my money, sir. And well, for me, sitting on my money in my Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Minding my own little business.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going positive there, though. On that news, the tick goes positive for pretty much the first time of the day. Go figure out this dystopian market we live in, And the VIX just fell below 19 on that news too.
Yeah, and price here in Ferrari now says price increases up to 10% for the remaining Ferrari models. So if you didn't get a Ferrari and you wanted one, well, there you go. You just got a 10%. So, and look, that's not cheap. That's, you know, a Ferrari to $300,000 Ferrari or higher, $500,000 Ferrari,
$300,000 car.
Yeah, that's $30,000 to $50,000 extra for no other reason than just
that's more than the cost of my car. What the increase?
Right. There we go, 86.1
down below 1890 now. I can't figure some of this stuff out, Steve. What people are thinking here.
Right. Well, I think the thing is, in the VIX really dropping now. I think maybe they're thinking that maybe the tariffs aren't as bad, and that other countries are now standing up to the president saying, okay, fine, you raise your tariffs, I'll raise mine. You raise yours, I'll raise mine. And eventually be like, nothing's going to happen. So it's kind of yeah, I don't understand. I mean, the economic side of me, just the hairs in the back of my neck just stand up going, I don't really understand this. It doesn't make sense to me. But I think you saw the trade rep talk about it 2 weeks ago, saying, look, cooler heads will prevail eventually. And that's interesting. So, yeah. Wow. China is now vowing greater efforts to promote property and stock markets. According to Financial Juice just came out with that.
So. You know, that's like China banning Bitcoin again. They say that every 6 or 8 months, and then they go back on it, and then they
you mean politics is playing on both sides we call it the pawn?
Yeah, we don't have a monopoly on crazy politicians. No, not at all.
1881 on VIX now, still dropping there as the tick now up to almost 600 here. So, you know, I think maybe the sell-off was a little overdone going into the 10 o'clock hour here. So, pending home sales now coming out in about 10 minutes now. Prior reading there for the index was 70.6. We need a little higher rating on that one. And pending sales change month over month. And the prior reading was down 4.6%. So they're expecting a forecast of 1%. That's not enough for companies like KB Homes and DR Horton and things like that. So, yeah. We're seeing now that Macron says that Russia's $230 billion euro frozen assets could be used for future reconstruction as part of a peace deal. Wow. Take their money from them and make them pay, right? So
that should go over well.
Here's
some good news. Mexican econ minister says Mexico is efforting preferential treatment in auto talks. So at least there's talks. Seeing China's industrial profits slipped in the first 2 months of 2025.
And we keep going now. Mexico's economic minister now says that they will inform on steel and auto side letters on April the 2nd. So they're just kicking the can, right? To see if they're calling, you know, they're doing, I think in a lot of ways, I think they're calling him out and saying, okay, we will wait to see if your tariffs actually go on April 2nd. And then if they did, then we'll do it. But just to keep talking about tariffs, we're not gonna play that game anymore. I think that's
look at what race is doing here, Steve.
What's that?
Take a look at what race is doing here.
Yeah. That's what we kind of figured, right? Race is like, you know what? Fine. We'll make it harder.
You know, people are like, hey, they're gonna they just made 10% more profit on every car they have sitting in the US right now. That makes their stock, you know, not 10% more valuable, but people thinking it's at least more valuable. There was at 402, now at 417. That's a pretty explosive move there. You broke that right there. That's the move you're looking for.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious to me.
71. Macron says Europe must be prepared in case America is not with us, and if that means we have to act alone. He talks pretty big.
Yeah, for a president who has a 21% approval rating.
Yeah.
He needs to be very careful because we don't need that kind of talk going on. Because
Europe. We know that will entice somebody in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to retweet something else. I'm curious. I haven't taken a look to see where Ford fell to yet today, because that is one that I am going to be interested in here at some point. The need for Ford F-150 pickups is not going away in the Midwest here. Jeez.
We're hearing now President Macron will speak to Trump in a few hours.
That should be fun. I would love to hear that conversation.
Well, we will about a little bit later, but we won't be able to hear it until after.
Yeah, I want to hear what he says, though. Do you think there's any pleasantries?
Nope. That is, it's what's interesting. It's been a very quiet morning, Howard, and right after 9:30, the world starts to talk, right, as in the markets. So,
Yeah.
Not saying anything. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but it's kind of strange that all of a sudden now
all these announcements, from overseas where they've been, they've had all day to do this. That's what we talked about yesterday, right? I mean, I said it. I am definitely not a conspiracy theory guy, but these are definitely timed out. I will say that I believe in I don't believe in like the whole crazy stuff out there, but I do believe people are spiteful, and I believe Macron knows exactly what time to do stuff to affect the U.S. markets, the same way Elon knows when he does it, as does President Trump.
Oh. Mexico's minister now says we are at a negotiating table with U.S. Commerce Secretary to protect auto parts here in Mexico.
So I said it's
continuing.
That's moving in the right direction for sure.
And if you notice, it's not this talk, the econ ministers and foreign ministers and prime ministers, both sides of the pond are happening right now, right?
I mean, I can't believe the information that comes out that it's just like through social media these days.
Yeah. 86.2 now. We need to get this. We need to get Bitcoin back to 88,000 here soon.
Now, Chinese vice premier China is willing to strengthen dialogue and communication with the EU, properly handle economic and trade disputes.
What is interesting, Howard, and I don't want to see this happening, but it could be that the rest of the world just gets together, and just discounts the United States and says we don't need them anymore, right? Yeah. We do have a possible new SEC chair. That would be Paul Atkins. His Senate confirmation hearing will be starting here soon. That's Paul Atkins.
He should get.
He should fly through. Yeah, 86,400. Yeah, 86,400 now on Bitcoin. As now the VIX is now below 19 at 1859 now. So
it picked up nicely to positive 309. Q's trying to get back down to neutral here. SPY's almost neutral, only down 8 percentage points. So that early morning.
Bill Gates now says that that told Trump his foundation will not be able to fund global health gaps if the administration keeps making major cuts. That's per Fortune magazine now.
Macron's got one right, though. He does say Trump's tariffs policy is inflationary.
Yeah, I mean, we just said that, right? I mean,
like I'm saying, the first thing he said so far today, I've read 400 tweets from him so far today. It's the first one I agree with.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd have to say it.
All right. So Macron just said that he told Trump that his tariff proposal was not a good idea, that the tariffs are value destructive for everyone, and that his policies are inflationary. Yeah.
He does have that right.
It's a busy morning. I thought it was going to be a quiet morning there, Howard.
What's that?
I thought it was going to be a boring morning with with baseball and basketball, and yet here we go. We've got world geopolitical issues. We don't want to be political here. We don't really care. We care about making money, right? But we have to understand the markets based on what's being said. And anybody who says, oh my charts, right now your charts are worthless, right? Because look at Ferrari. Ferrari should have told you that it continued selling off, but the minute that a news piece came in, your charts became literally worthless. And nobody loves charts probably more than me. I mean, I've been charting since paper and pen and graph paper. Like, come on. But I'm telling you right now, you have to understand the markets in general, right? You have to understand that how the whole world matters. It's one of my rules, right? And when I see people going, oh, it's all about price. Price is what dictates. Well, that's great, and it does. But did price dictate what Trump had to say or what Macron had to say today? Nope. They don't even care. The charts are just what has happened, not what is happening. And remember, the markets are about one thing. It's the path of least resistance. And if you're going to raise tariffs on Ferrari, the path of least resistance is to the upside because you're going to make 10% more money on their cars. So it's easy, understandable, right? So look, when I'm looking at these markets, you've got to understand every bit of this. And I love charting. I teach charting, but you also have to understand that there's more to the markets than just charting. In fact, I will tell you, charting is the least thing in the market. It's not the biggest thing in the market because money does not care. When money moves, it does not care about your charts. When the U.S. government buys gold, it's not going, ooh, look at the price of gold, right? Now, I will tell you that some countries do care about the price of oil when the price of oil gets too low, but they're not looking at charts. They're looking at their bottom line and what it costs to pump that thing out of the ground.
We've got pending home sales here coming in.
Here we go. Let's do it. Pending home
month of the month, 2%, forecast 1%. So actually a beat here. You got a nice little beat on pending home sales.
I like that. Yeah, actual 2% versus minus 4% was the 4.6% was the previous. Estimate was 1%, so 1% beat there. Also, home sales index, that's the overall number, 72 versus 70.6. So that's a very good number for home sales.
Yeah, nice move up there. Let's see if that buoys the market. It is getting us moving up a little bit. Tick is up. We do see SPY has gone positive here nicely, back above 568.80 here, getting us into the green. Qs are at 484, trying to go positive, not all the way there yet, but it looks like it's trying to get there right now.
Macron now says on the Trump tariffs, Europeans will respond by reciprocating.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a secret at this point.
No. 86.7 now on Bitcoin. All right.
So markets are recovering here. We've hit the 10 o'clock hour. Steve, so you think we melt up here a little bit today, or do you think the market just kind of goes sideways?
I was just looking over at my laptops. Most people don't really know that my office is just full of computers. And I will tell you that the first baseball game is Brewers versus Yankees at 3 o'clock today. Yankees, okay? If you don't know, that's where Wall Street is. And trust me, they're all down in the Bronx. Or I should say up in the Bronx, for those of you who don't know where the Yankee Stadium is. That starts at 3:05 Eastern. So I'm going to tell you right now, I know what it takes to get there on the train. So it'll take you about 45 to an hour from the Fight Eye all the way up. And so probably you'll start seeing the market start to slow down around 2 o'clock. So, and basketball starts what time? This afternoon. Yeah. So I think you're going to start to see a little bit of the market chilling out a little bit. I like these pending home sales, and it could be tick up 500. But Howard, I think that it's going to be a very quiet day pending any toilet tweets today.
Absolutely. I think tweet analysis is still key. I do think that we sort of trade sideways. I do think we see a little bit of volatility as those tweets come out, but then I think that people buy dips and sell rips. So guys and gals, have a great day. We will see you tomorrow. Up next will be Jeremy Vreeland and Matthew Tuttle with the Rebel Market Podcast.